Okay, so my session is called Beyond Business as Usual, but before I talk about that, it's probably a good idea to resume what is this business as usual? What is the thing that we are trying to improve upon? So for that reason, I put up a slide, first of all, about the number of SMEs we have in Europe. Here you have a summary of the situation. There are more than 24 million companies in Europe. Of those, about 22.8 million are SMEs. And we have some legislation called the European Energy Efficiency Directive. This obliges all large companies in Europe to carry out energy efficiency audits at least once every 4 years. And part of what we're looking at in the Innovates project is the idea that, should we extend these audits to SMEs? Is this a good tool to enable them to take on board and implement energy efficiency measures? Now, my slides are covered by a dialog box. It would be nice if you could remove those. Thanks. So the general wisdom is that SMEs don't have the time or the energy or whatever to either pay for energy efficiency audits and certainly not to implement the projects. So this, to some extent, is our starting point. And aside from the veracity of this fact, which we will challenge later on, we looked around at some of the energy efficiency agencies in Europe and what they're doing in terms of audits. And doing a very simple back of the envelope argument, we find that if these guys are to audit every SME in Europe at least once between now and 2050, with a view to helping them complete their green transition, they would have to increase the rate of auditing by a factor of 15, at least. This is huge. And if they were to audit the SMEs twice, they would have to increase it by a factor of 30. And I think this is already a pretty conservative estimate of the amount of auditing that needs to be done to be able to determine that SMEs have played their part in the transition to what we call net zero in 2050. So putting it very rigorously and scientifically, our conclusion is that there is no way in hell that SMEs are going to play their role in the green transition in Europe if we continue doing things the way we do them now. Now, when you're faced with a big problem, it's good to take a step back and try to look at it from different directions. And one of the things I was able to do in 2019, before the pandemic struck, was to attend a meeting in Brussels of an organization called ERIC, the European Resource Efficiency Knowledge Hub. The whole point about this is that resource efficiency is very closely linked to energy efficiency, in the sense that if you reduce your use of resources, you also reduce the energy that is embedded or implied in the production of those resources. So it was really interesting to attend this conference and see what people had to say. One of the speakers was a guy called Janusz Potocznik. Many of you probably know him already because he used to be the Minister for the Commissioner for the Environment in the European Union. And he put up this very interesting and provocative slide about the behavior of companies from the point of view of their cost structure. And you see this line down at the bottom, this orange line, that corresponds to the amount that companies are spending on energy. And it is compared with the lines above, which is what they spend on labor and what they spend on material inputs. Now, the first thing you'll notice is that what they spend on energy is relatively low compared to all of their other costs. So this means that there is a challenge for companies in the sense that if you want to make cost savings by increasing your energy efficiency, there's a whole range of other things that probably give you bigger savings right away than reduction in energy efficiency. And this suggests that we need to change the way that we look at this if we're going to get action on it. But again, recall that material inputs have an indirect energy load, and reducing your material inputs is actually a way to increase your energy efficiency. The audits that are carried out based on this European Energy Efficiency Directive don't actually take these things into account. So at the very least, there's a need to upgrade this approach to take account not only of the direct use of energy, but indirect uses as well. Now, another really interesting thing that was mentioned is the fact that energy is only, energy efficiency and the energy transition is really just part of a bigger issue, which is the climate. The goal that we're really pursuing in all of this is to deal with the crisis of climate change, which is already happening. It's not something that will happen many years in the future or in 2050 or in 2030, but it's something that is being played out around the world right now in wildfires and in the destruction of natural habitats, in volatility of food prices and pandemics. So this is the real issue, is climate change, and that comes down to carbon management. And under the topic of carbon management, energy efficiency is just one of the things that you need to pay attention to in order to manage carbon, CO2 emissions, and deal with this, what is actually a climate crisis.